That new construction house might look perfect, but it might be hiding things underneath that you're not even aware of. I'm gonna show you in this video 5 things to watch for when buying a new construction house. Now, what qualifies me for this? I am your #1 local Dallas-Fort Worth construction pro turned real estate agent. I've owned and operated a construction company now for 23 years, and I am now a real estate agent helping many people find the perfect home. So let's talk about new construction and the 5 things to look for when buying new construction. But before I do that, make sure you click on the Calendly link below and let's get on a Zoom call and let's talk about what kind of house you're looking for and how I can help you find the perfect home for you. Red flag #1, watch for drainage. What do I mean by drainage? I mean, watch how the lots are being graded. Now, what do you do if you're not a construction professional and you don't have the right tools? Find someone that has a transit level and make sure that that lot is grading or draining away from the house. Now, let me share a story with you. Not too long ago, I was called to go and look at a project in a new construction neighborhood. The neighborhood had only been around a few years. And when I go back there, the customer talked about how the side of his yard was a mud pit, like it was real mushy because all the water comes through the yard and then he's walking on that grass, which is mud because all the water's there. But not only that, he has a problem in the middle of the yard where it's a mush pit. He wants it to dry out. I mean, he was going to the extent of wanting to put riverbed rocks in the middle of the yard to give it a decorative look, but mainly so he didn't have to walk on mud and water. Not only that, builder, to stop the water from coming into his neighbor's yard, the builder put up a retaining wall so that it would not drain into his neighbor's yard. The neighbor decided, you know what, I see how much water is draining into my yard. I don't want that anymore. If you want me to buy this house, I want you to build me a retaining wall so that it doesn't drain in my yard. But what that did is it pushed it from their yard around into his yard the way it was designed. In the photo, you can see the metal fence. It has openings. So what he wanted us to do was, in addition to putting that riverbed there, he wanted us to put a metal plate at the bottom so that the water would no longer drain into his yard, but would then drain into the drainage ditch behind him. It makes sense, and that's how they should have designed it. But it kind of stunk for him because the design was actually to drain in everyone's yard and go out the side onto the street. But this builder, to please their client, from what he's telling me, is they put that retaining wall up and now he's getting twice as much water. He even went to the city and the city said, well, that's an HOA problem, that's a development problem. And they said, well, you came out here and you gave us the final inspection. That seems to be a city problem because you approved something that wasn't in the original drainage plan. So this was a huge problem for him. He's having to spend now thousands of dollars to have a French drain put in, to have riverbed rock put in, and then to have a metal plate at the bottom of his fence or gate welded so that the water is diverted into the drainage ditch. So it's very important that you make sure the lots are draining correctly away from your house and there's enough of a slope or a pitch to get it to drain correctly, because if not, there's going to be a water pit, a water mess, and you're going to end up having to invest in French drains later on, and that could run you anywhere from $15 to $35 a linear foot. If it's done right, it's going to be more to the $30 to $35 a linear foot. Now, there's also another problem with the drainage and the grades that I'm going to speak about. This happened to a family member. The lots were graded and people moved into their houses. My family member, they moved into their home, and then out in their backyard, as it rained and poured, they noticed a lake forming in their backyard. It was awful. They all joined together, went to the builder who was still building in the neighborhood. He said whenever they finish the building, they're gonna fix it. Well, fast forward a year or so later, and it was not fixed, and it never has been fixed. So they've been living now, when it rains in this lower area where it was not graded correctly, they've now been living in with having this lake back there, and it takes a few days to dry up. And then of course, because they're out in the country, you've got all the crawfish that are starting to form their mounds and everything. So they don't have a lot of great grass that grows on there. Now, luckily they're on about an acre and a half. And so that doesn't affect them so much. But if they wanted to have their dog run around in the back, they couldn't have him or her run around back there because there's so much water that sits. So reiterating, problem number one, red flag number one to watch for new construction is the lot drainage. Make sure that the lots are graded correctly. Your lot is graded correctly. Now, for me, what I could do for you is I would go out with my transit laser level and I would check the grading of the lot as your home is being built. So you hire me as your real estate agent. I go out there, I check the drainage of the lot. And if it's not draining correctly, we're gonna throw up that red flag, talk to the builder, go to him, say, hey, what can you do? This needs to be draining correctly. If it's not, put in some French drains for us. If not, then we're gonna have to negotiate with them. So watch for drainage. Red flag number two, concrete, ugly concrete. We've gotta watch for this because if we're dealing with new construction and it's not a true custom home build, but it's more of the higher end custom production homes, we've got to watch for this because the subcontractors in these neighborhoods are not getting paid very much. They're not getting paid per job. They're getting paid per job, but they make their money on quantity, not on quality. For example, you're gonna see a lot of real quick finishes. What do I mean by that? They're gonna take what's called the whirlybird, the big power trowel machine, and instead of really burning the concrete, they're going to now go over it until it's hard, but not slick power trowel. So we're seeing a lot on the construction side. We're seeing a lot of what I call ugly concrete. I've made some reels about that. I'll have to post them on this channel as well. But what ugly concrete is whenever the contractors are not doing a good job. I call it ugly concrete. Now, if your concrete is not properly done, it makes it weaker and the pores are more open. It scratches a lot easier. Why does this matter? Well, if you ever want to do stained concrete, it matters quite a bit. But not only that, the integrity of the concrete is affected by not troweling the concrete correctly and hard troweling it and putting that burn on the concrete. You're also going to see a lot more cracks in those areas. Now, cracks aren't always a problem with concrete. They're not. You can get stress cracks. You can get evaporation cracks here in Texas, especially in the heat. So those things aren't always a red flag, but when somebody is rushing through the concrete job and they're not doing a hard burn finish on it, especially the garage floor. I mean, we used to have slick, marble looking garage floors. That needs to happen. This is your home. You want it to be as beautiful as it can be. So it needs to have a burn finish on there. Not only that, the driveways, they've got to finish the concrete in a slower fashion. And what I mean by that is, don't let them put the broom finish on that broom concrete until the concrete is set up. Because what I'm seeing a lot of in new construction neighborhoods is because guys are trying to go on to the next job, they're going through when the concrete's still too wet and they're brushing it. And it's making it more rough, it's making it softer, so it scratches a lot easier. You're getting a little bit more pits and holes in the concrete. That's not acceptable. We've got to watch for that. The perfect cure for this is to be out there when the concrete is being poured. Myself, as your agent, I will be there watching that concrete being poured. It's very important that this is negotiated to make sure you have the best foundation on your home, the best driveway, the best patio. I mean, this is your home where you're going to live there for many years. You need to have a good, solid foundation. Red flag number 3 to watch for in new construction builds. That's the framing. Have you ever gone to someone's house and you're perhaps in the bathroom washing your hands and you notice the wall looks a little wonky, a little crooked, there's a good chance it is. It could be out of square. Now again, these contractors that are in new construction, higher end production home neighborhoods, even if they say custom, if they're production homes, then they're getting paid again. They're making their money by quantity, not necessarily by quality. So what can you do to ensure your home is staying in square? Go get a carpenter square and then walk around as it's being squared or at the end of the day and put that square in the corner and make sure that square lines up. If it doesn't line up, you got a problem. Is your home structurally going to be okay? Probably so, but aesthetically speaking, it's not going to look good. For example, if you're putting tiles on a 45-degree angle or you're doing stained concrete on a 45-degree angle and something's out of square, you're gonna have bigger squares or bigger triangles at the end of the hallway or at the beginning of the hallway, depending on where they started that pattern, because it's not symmetrically square. It's very important aesthetically that the framing stays in square. Are you gonna be a pain in the rear for the subcontractors? Yes, but it's worth it because this is your house. This is one of the biggest investments you are going to make in your life monetarily. So let's make sure that the framing stays square. You need the look to be beautiful because you've invested a lot of money. Even if you're buying a starter house and the price is low, for you, that price is high and you deserve the best looking house. So let's make sure the framing stays in square because it's gonna affect a lot of other things aesthetically speaking if that is not in square, and it could affect structural things as well. Red flag number 4. This applies to the beginning, throughout the job, and at the end of the job. Cleanup. Make sure they're keeping your house clean. Why? Because if it's not being cleaned, you're gonna find out that you have something funky going on inside of your wall. For example, there are all kinds of things that happen on a new construction project and that you might not be aware of. A lot of times, people are going to be drinking Cokes or water bottles and they don't want to go to the trash. And let's say that you've got a sheetrocker there, doesn't want to go to the trash can and doesn't want to just throw it on the floor. I've seen contractors take those cans and set them inside the walls of the house. And then a sheetrocker comes by. Guess what? He sheetrocks right over those studs, and in between, remember, those studs is the water bottle or the can of Coke, or even, let's say, a McDonald's or some other kind of fast food that's old and stale and inside the walls. Guess what? It attracts bugs. And in a new construction neighborhood where you have rodents in the fields before the neighborhood was being built, well, where do you think those rodents are gonna go? They're going to be looking for places with food. So you don't want to have trash and food and junk inside your walls. I'm going to share a kind of crazy story with you. Hopefully you'll bear with me. I remember talking to a cleanup crew. We were doing a stained concrete project for this person, and she owned a construction cleaning company. And she said while she was cleaning the house for this builder, she noticed that there was a smell coming from the attic. And so she went up and looked in the attic, and there was a bucket. And the bucket was full of something that I won't mention, but you can only imagine. It looked like somebody had went and used the bathroom up there in the attic and had left it there. So it's been cooking, if you will, this whole time. And when she went to the builder and said, look at this, he just told her, oh yeah, I know it's there, I'm not touching it. So I believe she had to touch it and, you know, clean it and throw it away, whatever it be. My point is that there's all kinds of things that happen on the job sites. You've got to make sure the contractors are keeping it clean. So let's talk to the home builder, the production manager, the superintendent, and make sure they're keeping your job site of your new house clean at all times. Red flag number 5, and this one irks me quite a bit. My family have been in the floor business for years and years and years. My grandfather came to the Dallas area in the late 30s, opened up a floor company, and it was a huge blessing for my family. Love it. Because of that, I know everything there is, or I think I know everything there is about flooring. One of the things I know about flooring, especially wood floors, is you've got to let the material acclimate before you install it. This is something I see, especially in new construction houses, that needs to be corrected. And that is, let's not rush the acclimation of the material before we install it. What happens if you do? If you install trim in the wintertime and you don't let it acclimate, well, in the summertime, you're going to experience some things that you didn't expect. For example, in the summer months, you're probably going to experience some shrinkage and gaping. You even could get some nails that are starting to pop out. You could also get cracked paint or caulk because it was not installed at the correct time, or it wasn't allowed to acclimate in the wintertime. So before you install trim, if it's real wood, make sure the heat has been on if it's wintertime. If it's in the summertime, make sure the AC's on. Let that wood acclimate inside the air conditioning or heat, whatever season you're in. If you don't, when it changes seasons, you're gonna be up for a big surprise. Have you ever gone to someone's house for dinner and you've seen a big crack in their not a crack, but a joint that is not filled in? It's like a gap that is where the 45-degree angle meets up. Both of those 45-degree joints meet up. There's a reason for that. They didn't let it acclimate. So we've got to, I see that so many times with materials. I see it with cabinets, with wood floors, trim, wood trim. If it's not properly acclimated, you're going to have problems when the seasons change. So make sure the material are acclimated. So at the end of the day, you're learning that new construction isn't just about picking paint colors and countertops. Yes, those are important, but you've also got to make sure you've got correct drainage, you have a good concrete foundation. If it's a slab foundation, any foundation, make sure it's strong. You also have to have your framing in square. You have to make sure you're cleaning up, that everybody's cleaning up, the subcontractors are cleaning up. And 5, you've got to make sure the material acclimates. These are 5 big red flags that I see in new construction builds that you've got to watch for. Otherwise, your dream home might not be such a dream after all. So call me, let's talk about this. Share this video with a friend that's thinking about new construction. And if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, give me a call or get on my Calendly link and set a time where we can talk through Zoom. I'm Kenneth Holland. I am your #1 local Dallas-Fort Worth construction pro turned real estate agent. Let's make a deal.